So hello everyone, welcome to the most requested and awaited video. In the last couple of months, I've received a lot of emails, DMs and WhatsApps requesting to make a video on drug regulatory affairs and how to navigate a career into it and what are the requirements, the qualification and the salary ranges in this particular career. So in this particular video, we are going to just look at all these aspects and understand comprehensively what a career in drug regulatory affairs looks like. So without wasting any further time, let's start this video. So let us understand what would be the key focus area of this particular session. First, we'll understand the basics and foundation of the regulatory affairs, followed by the roles and responsibility that you will play as a professional in regulatory affairs and what kind of career that would be. Next, we'll look at the career prospect, which is one of the most important aspect, as it is important to navigate the career progression and achieve a certain level of growth in your career. And finally, a lot of students ask me what is the salary range or how much compensation that I can expect from this career. So we'll also look at that in a deeper sense. So before we begin, I want to draw your attention to one of the important points that we take pride in bringing quality content to our viewers, to students, to clinical research professionals. And we have observed that around 72% of the viewers in our channel do not subscribe to this channel. See, subscribing is very important because obviously it is free, it is simple and quick, but most importantly, it brings us additional motivation to create quality content. Okay, so when it comes to educational videos and quality content, we have to do a lot of research, we have to do a lot of efforts from our schedule, and for that your subscribe gesture would have the potential to help the students and professional of the future. And in this method or through this channel, we are going to guide a lot of students, so a subscribe and share would be highly appreciated. And if you could just give your 5 seconds and subscribe, it would be very helpful. So thank you for subscribing. Let's begin. So first and foremost, let's understand what exactly is regulatory affairs. So regulatory affairs can be described as a regulatory affairs in terms of pharmaceutical industry would be a profession which acts as an interface between the pharmaceutical industry and the drug regulatory authority across the world. Okay, so the Indian Drug Regulatory Authority is the CDSCO. In US, it would be the US FDA. So the regulatory affairs team would be involved in registration of the drug or the products in respective countries prior to their marketing. So as you would understand that once you perform clinical trial, you'll have to take approval from the government, from the regulatory authority, and there is a certain level of processing, there is a certain level of documentation, after which, after compliance, you get the approvals. So the drug regulatory affairs professional comply by the regulatory across the world and make sure that the registration of any kind of drug products, okay, is according to the respective countries, okay, and all that ensures that you can market your drug in those particular regions. Okay, so that is regulatory affairs as an industry, and it plays a very important bridge between the pharma company and the regulatory affairs or the government. Now, when it comes to regulatory affairs, we have this notion that it is only related to the drugs, but there are various industries in which regulatory affairs or the professionals who are into regulatory affairs career work with. Okay, so these are some countries where the professional works. Obviously, first would be the pharmaceutical. Next, even the veterinary medications, the complementary medication, the agrochemicals, the pesticide, the therapeutic devices, the diagnostic devices, and cosmetic industry. Okay, if you see, all these industries are quite huge and they have a very large turnover, which means that there is a requirement of registration of these products to the regulatory authority and taking approval from the government. So a combined output of the entire requirement of regulatory affair professionals is very huge. But in return, you have to comply by all the regulatory requirements, and definitely you can make a career progression in regulatory affairs. Okay, so this is regulatory affairs for you. Now let us understand what would be your role and responsibility as a regulatory affairs professional. So first and forward would be the compliance. Okay. So when you're a regulatory affairs professional, it is important that you comply to the regulatory authority requirements. It can vary from one country to another country, and we have to ensure that we are well versed with the laws, the regulation of each and every country, and we have to put the data, the documentation according to it. So a regulatory affairs professional ensures that the company's products are in compliance with the regulation of that particular region where we have to market the product, and we have to ensure that we have to keep up with the latest changes, the regulations, the amendments of that particular region or the country, and the legislation, the guidelines, and the practices needs to be updated so that your product can still be marketed. So compliance is one of the most important role and responsibility of a regulatory professional. Next would be the data. So these professionals also collate, collect, and evaluate the scientific data from a wide range of sources. Okay, these can be scientific sources, non-scientific sources, the academic sources, the media. So we have to collect all the data regarding your products, okay, the company portfolio, and we have to monitor the entire data and set timelines so that we can achieve the licenses, okay, as per the requirement, and we ensure that that license is valid, that license is renewed. Okay, so it happens that a particular regulatory authority, for example CDSCO, would give you only 10 years of exclusive rights. So a regulatory professional has to ensure that the approval is up to date and the data collected is properly submitted so that the safety can be assessed. Okay, so data collection, the licensing variation, and the renewal of the approvals have to be in compliance. Next thing obviously is the licensing. That is the final goal after you develop a product and you ensure that it is efficacious. So regulatory affair professional develop and write clear arguments, okay, which explains that the new product requires licenses and why it should be renewed if it has already a license. Because a lot of regulatory authorities, especially the US FDA, would obviously ask you to compare your product to another product, and why would we give you license to market that particular product? Okay, you cannot go and make the 10 copies of the same products. You have to show a clear distinction that would be in terms of efficacy or in terms of pricing. So the regulatory affairs professional has to have very clear scientific arguments and explanation which demands for new product license or renewal in some cases. The regulatory affair professional also prepares the submissions if it's a new drug, and also the license variation wherever the regulations are strict, and they have to work within stringent deadlines. So it is a lot of paperwork, but more importantly it is in compliance to the regulatory authorities, to the governments, to the regions of that particular area, and that is the entire country spectrum. Okay, so it is not that one particular product can be sold in one particular country only. The company has to ensure that the maximum product is distributed across the world, and therefore you require a lot of licenses. And in order to comply by those licenses, you would require to submit a lot of submissions, and that should be in compliance with variations across all the countries. So understand the level of research, the level of up-to-date knowledge that you have to get in order to comply by all the countries and their regulation. Next responsibility is for the clinical trials. Okay, so in order to create a strategy for a product to be submitted for approval, you have to ensure that the clinical trials are planned and developed, okay, as per requirement in the appropriate time frame, and the interpretation of the data is very clear, because when you make a regulatory submission, you have to ensure that the data is correctly interpreted, the correctly written, and the regulatory can correctly understand what data you have submitted. Also, the regulatory professional even advise the scientist and the manufacturer on the regulatory requirement, so that the formulation can be created according to it. There is no element or substance that is banned by the regulatory. The substance should contain the appropriate amount of salts, appropriate amount of elements which are approved, okay, which does not violate any health policy. So the regulatory affairs professional also play a very important role there, as well as they even help you to write clear and accessible product labels. Okay, even labeling of the products is one of the important criteria, and even the patient information leaflet which you get in a lot of medicines, that also has to be written in a certain manner and complied with. So in terms of clinical research, and in terms of advisory to the scientist, to the manufacturer, in designing to the product labels and patient information leaflet, these professionals play a very important role. Now, next would be the audit and inspection. So obviously, once you get approval, it does not mean that you can do anything or you can degrade the quality of the product. You have to be ready for the audits. And time and again, we have seen that a lot of pharmaceutical company gets audited, and even the plants get shut down due to non-compliance with the regulatory requirements. So regulatory affair professional have to be ready to manage and handle the audit, to prepare for it. They have to liaise with all the stakeholders and give appropriate presentation, documentation, explanation to the regulatory authority. And they also have to negotiate at times with the regulatory authority, explaining why they are doing what they are doing and how is it in compliance, because it can be misinterpretation at that time. So you have to have very clear, rational, scientific explanation for the marketing authorization. So audit and inspection are one of the key roles of regulatory affair professional, and this clearly explains your hold over the product that you are marketing and what entirely is the product life cycle. So speaking of it, the last and important role is product development and marketing. So even once the product is approved by the regulatory affairs professional have to provide critical insight in strategic planning of the product development and marketing to the senior management. Okay, because they have seen the product right from its infancy stages to the approval stages, and how we can differentiate this particular product, or how we can place this particular product in a respective market. They also play a very important role in concept development of the marketing, as well as how they should develop a particular packaging, how the advertising should be, what is the target population that we are looking at before the product's release. Okay, so not only the regulatory affair responsibility end at the approval, it ends only after the product release, and even then it may not end if there are audit and inspection. So you can say the role of regulatory affairs professional starts from the molecule development to the clinical trial to the regulatory submission to the approval to the marketing strategy to the product launch to the entire life cycle of the product, including audit and inspections. So it is a quite elaborate role and would give you a lot of experience when it comes to regulatory affairs career. Now, a lot of people get into regulatory affairs career, but when it comes to progression, there are a lot of misconception, there are a lot of confusions regarding the career prospect and progression in this particular career. So let us understand that. So the first and foremost thing that you have to remember is that it takes a little bit longer amount of time in the early stages of your career to develop, because it depends upon the range of the skills, the experience that you have to give you job as a fresher or the newly recruited regulatory affairs professional, because the pharmaceutical company or the industry can be it in advanced stages or in infancy stages, and how they can accommodate you. So earlier, career progression in the earlier stages can take some bit of time, but once you get a hang of it, it moves relatively very quickly into a senior role. As long as you perform well, you have the required level of competency, then your career would be growing at a rapid pace and exponentially. Okay, so initially it will be slow. Once you get the hang of it, once you develop certain competency and skills, you would definitely move into senior roles, and then the exponential career based on your performance and skill set. The next thing is that there are certainly opportunities for the progress of the career in regulatory affairs, and it moves into senior role or even the regulatory affairs specialist role. Okay, so before developing your career into such a role, you have to understand what exactly the progression you're looking at. Okay, you have to develop a strategy so that you move into a certain direction, so that you are head of the operations team or the unit manager, okay, at a certain amount of time. So in any career, I would advise you to have timelines, to have skill development milestone, so that once that time is up, you can move into senior position. Okay, next thing is that how senior can I go into regulatory affairs. Okay, so the most senior roles in the regulatory affairs is head of the regulatory affairs, or even the associate or director level position of the regulatory affairs in the pharma companies. And you will have a responsibility in terms of the all regulatory staff and all strategy of a product development and marketing. So it is a very challenging role, and certainly you can reach up to the top apex category of the jobs as well. And when it comes to having abundant opportunity, so definitely regulatory affairs career and companies are moving in the right direction. There are opportunities coming ahead, okay, especially after COVID. And there is a growing trend where they even have the contract regulatory affair professional, where you give services to them. And the opportunities have been definitely increasing, and the progression into the consultancy area has always been an important role. And in regulatory affairs, there is a certain level of freedom where you can even work as a uh, consultant. Okay, so not only in a particular company, but if you have a certain level of competency, certain level of knowledge in regulatory submission, you can even have your own consultancy and work as a consultant to the pharmaceutical companies. Now coming on to the most favorite category for the new students and even regulatory affair professionals, that what would be your salary range at different stages of experience as well as position. So when it comes to salary, there are four major brackets. So when you start your career, you are essentially a regulatory affairs associate. So the numbers which I'm displaying here is the average, okay, the starting average based on a lot of research that we have done with various job portals and pharmaceutical companies, and the professionals which actually work as regulatory affairs professional in pharma industry. So if you start your career as an associate of regulatory affairs, it would be starting average of 3 lakhs per annum. Then you move on into regulatory affairs specialist role, which is a mid senior level position, which the salary goes up to 7.5 lakhs per annum. Here your experience would be around 1 to 3 years. Next is the senior position, which is regulatory affairs specialist or senior specialist in regulatory affairs. There the salary start range is around 16 lakhs per annum. And here you would be in a managerial role, assisting the manager and handling a small team. Next would be the regulatory affairs manager. Here you would be handling multiple teams on multiple projects and products. So here the starting average would be anywhere around 25 lakhs per annum. And moving forward to the manager role, there is definitely the vice president, the director level role, where the salary can go as high as your expectation or your imagination based on your competency and the company requirements. Okay, so it's definitely a very good career that you can choose to. And finally, thank you for watching this video. I hope I was able to help you clarify regulatory affairs career and its progression. Make sure you share this with your fellow colleagues and students who are looking into clinical research, and especially regulatory affairs professional. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as requested, and thank you for watching this video.